Well, hey everybody. Boy, I have a problem with the Camaro that really stunned me. Yesterday morning I was heading out early and backing down my driveway, and it was cool. There was dew on the car, so I fired it up. The air conditioner had been on, so I turned the air conditioning off to vent. I hit the rear defogger for the rear window because it was so much dew, and started backing down the driveway, and within a few seconds I could smelled burny, smoky. By the time I got the 100 feet down the driveway, there was smoke rolling out of my dash. Basically, I had smoke rolling out of my dash around the top of the this heater section, and above the heater control. And that kind of startled me. I was afraid that I had a wire burning. Now, everything in this car is fused by factory. Even where I've replaced things, I've always made sure the fuses were there. And the fuses are supposed to protect the wires. But obviously I had smoke. And given that the rear defogger was on, that draws a lot of power. I thought it might be the problem. But the radio, everything was working. So anyway, I pulled the car back up here and shut it off and let it sit, and took my truck to go do what I had to do. And then when I came back, tore into this. And I've had the radio out and it's back in. I just don't have the screws back in it. But what's of note to you is my problem is the heater control valve. And to be precise, that orange part in the middle there is the control switch that when you move the lever on the front from heater to vent to air conditioning, that one switches the modes electrically. There's a separate part back here that switches the vacuum doors, but this orange one switches it from electrically from air conditioning to vent and so forth. And on my particular car, it appears that there are only 3 wires on this switch. Every car, I've been looking at the wiring diagrams, every one of the Camaros, at least in my 85 book, depending on the engine, has a different wiring. And sometimes even the switch looks like it might be different in the picture being the wiring diagram picture. I'm not sure. I kind of suspect the switches are the same and they're just use different contacts for different terminals. But anyway, if you look hard, right there in the middle, right, let's see if I can get it to focus. So if you look right hard in the middle next to that white post in the center, you'll see there's a piece of metal sticking up through the switch. And apparently the switch is bad. It has a bad spot in it that is high resistance and overheated and melted that piece of terminal up through the plastic. And that's where the smoke was coming from. So essentially I had it sitting over here at vent, and I started checking for burned wires and couldn't find any. And when I came back and pulled this out, and pulled the radio out too, and just turned the ignition to on, this started smoking within seconds. And so I found that, if I bump the vent, bump this slider a little bit further to the right, the smoke, it stopped smoking almost immediately. I think in my parts, I have a spare one of these at my other garage, and I used that to get a replacement switch for the blower. And so anyway, I think I have another one of those orange switches up there, and I'm going to try to replace it when I get there. And in the meantime, since it seems to not smoke if you keep the switch moved over, I think I'm going to be able to drive with it for the next little bit until I can get there and repair it. But if you get smoke coming out of your dash, It's something you might want to look at. That's all. So today I'm going to try to repair my heater control. This is where I'm going to get my replacement parts from. So I determined that the smoke coming out on my dashboard was due to this switch being bad. And what I have is a control out of an 88 Camaro that I bought used some time back because mine had been damaged when they pried the dashboard apart. And there's a rotary vacuum switch over here, and it had been broken so that the damper doors didn't work. So I borrowed that and put it into my car. I've been scavenging off of this now for quite a while. I could have just replaced the whole control, except the 88 isn't quite the same, and the main thing that's different is there's a switch here, another vacuum switch, that my 85 doesn't have. And what this one controls, if I remember it correctly, my 85 does not have a valve in the heater hose to turn off the heater when you put it into air conditioning. They added that, I think I saw in the parts list in 86. So I've just been scavenging. So in my look at the old parts lists, this switch was replaceable, but it's no longer available through GM AC Delco, although it looked like some folks on eBay were selling new old stock. And I might pick one of those up. But since I have a spare here, I'm going to install this one and get myself back going. Because right now what I've been doing is trying to keep it away from the bad spot by adjusting the control here to keep it away from the bi-level position, which is where it seemed like where it was causing trouble. I've also looked at wiring diagrams, and it's kind of interesting because this switch, apparently, based on the parts list, when I go look it up, is common for like 20 years across not just Camaros, but many GM cars and trucks. And it has a number of different switches in it, and the way they make it work for all the different cars is that each car uses different wires. And I found that I looked at the wiring diagrams for my 85 Camaro, and if you have a 2.8 six-cylinder, it uses this switch with a different set of wires. If you've got the carbureted V8, it uses a different set of wires. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take that switch off, like so. Take off this wiring connector, because this one would be set up to be wired for that 88 car. Then that gets me down to this switch, which is pretty simply installed. It's easier for me to show you this here under the lights out than inside the car and trying to get light into the car. So it just has these two screws that's thread into plastic, and then this one lifts off, and you can see on the bottom what it looks like. And there's a tab here. It's a rotary switch, and that tab goes into this track here, like so. And so I'm assuming this came out of an old car that wasn't running, and I'm going to assume that it's going to work. I'm going to try it and install it, and we'll see what we get. All right, so I'm going to start this by getting these screws out of here. These are these Torx head jobbies, T15s. This last one up in the corner really doesn't thread into much. It's more of a trim screw. well, there is a, I guess there is a place for it to bite, but it runs just a little bit different than the others. All right, now I got the heater control here, and I need to back that guy out of there. I think I can do it and leave the metal part in and leave the radio in, so let's see how that goes. All right, well, I got the 3 screws out, 7mm heads, and I've got the control mostly pulled out, but I'm kind of at the end of my rope here. It doesn't want to go further. Let's see what I can do. Don't want to break anything. And from there, I guess that's as far as I've got. So let's see if I can sneak out the switch over to a socket wrench that's a little shorter than the screwdriver. Get that one out. There's the old switch. You can see the burn spot on it here. Just gotta make sure you get that in the groove, so to speak. Get that screw started. Get that one started. See, the old switch, or say the switch that I got out of the other car, had like 5 connections on it, and this one, my car has only like 3 connections on it, so it uses different contacts in the switch for different things. So that looks okay. And then I can just get my hand in here and we'll get that switch snapped back on there, like so. Everything else looks okay. Put her back in here and button it up and hook up the battery and try it. Well, let's fire it up and see what we get here. cycling. There it goes out of the vent. There it goes to here, which you won't hear it kick in. And then defrost, I can hear the clutch coming back in. Got air up on top. Air going onto the floor. Yep, right there. Bi-level. Like all the modes are working. All right. So here's the switch I pulled out. That's a better look of, see that contact burned through. That's what was smoking. Apparently the contact got to be a high resistance, and I maybe wasn't all the way on it. I was in vent, and it shouldn't have been running in air condition, but that's like the connection for the air conditioning in bi-level. And you can see it, it melted its way right on through. So right now it's working. I might just investigate one of those eBay switches for just in case the one I put in there, which is also used, doesn't last real long. But hey, looking good. Another task done. That's all for now.